I have ended many lives. Some possessed names that echoed in great halls, others were merely whispers in the dirt. To me, the distinction is an irrelevant vanity. They are not people. They are obstacles rendered in flesh and bone. In this existence, there is no North Star but the mission. A job is a cold equation, simple, binary, absolute. Hesitation is a luxury for the living, and regret is a ghost I refused to host long ago. Hey, I can feel you there, standing on the edge of my world. How are you feeling right now? I need to check in, because the road ahead is paved with things most people turn away from. Thank you for choosing to stay. It truly means the world to me. If you feel the pull of the silver moon, show your support by subscribing and liking this video. Leave a comment below telling us where you're joining the pack from. Your energy fuels this story. Now, let's return to the silence. The blood oath I swore to Viktor Volkov is my only scripture. I am his hand, his steel, his shadow. I was not born. I was forged in the kiln of his ambition, molded until the soft parts of my soul were hammered into something other. My hands, steady as a mountain and twice as hard, bear the invisible stains of 1,000 departures. I have mastered the art of erasure, plucking souls from the loom of time as if they were never woven into the tapestry at all. In doing so, I have shed my own reflection. I am a weapon. A wolf without a den, a predator without a pulse. It was Volkov who taught me the only gospel worth knowing: loyalty. It is the thin red line that separates us from the mindless beasts scavenging in the dark. Loyalty to him. Loyalty to the brotherhood of the blade. Loyalty to the carnage that paid for my place at the table. Without Viktor, I would have been a stray, a mangy creature shivering in the gutters of a world that has no room for the broken. He gave me a spine of iron. Under his gaze, I ceased to be a scavenger. I became an instrument of inevitable death. The first kill was not a murder. It was a baptism. Volkov stood behind me, a monolith of shadow, his eyes two burning coals of calculation. He watched as I severed the thread of a man I once called brother, my companion, my friend. He fell with a sickening silence, a sudden absence of weight. His body was still radiating a pathetic, dying warmth as I wiped the spray from my blade. It wasn't just a life taken, it was a history deleted. And I was the ink blot. Since that hour, I have learned the essential truth of the assassin. Feelings are friction. To be efficient, one must be smooth, frictionless, and hollow. There is no room for the rot of sorrow or the dizzying high of joy. There is only the steel, the target, and the silence that follows. The rest is merely static. Now, Volkov has handed me a new contract. The parameters are familiar, the objective clear. Eliminate the Alpha Queen, Selene Thorne. Extinguish her light. Harvest her heart core and bring it to the feet of the Volkov throne. To the mind, she is just another name to be struck through with a red pen. Just another alpha, destined for the dirt. But the world speaks of her in a way that defies the logic of the hunt. The legends claim she commands the very marrow of the earth, primal, tectonic powers that hum in her veins. They whisper that she is not merely a leader, but a heartbeat. A force of nature so woven into the souls of her pack that they would follow her into the maw of hell without a second thought. They call her the moon-bound. They say she can summon the gale and braid the lightning. To the Silver Moon Pack, she is not a queen. She is a deity. I have never bowed to legends. Legends are the bedtime stories of the weak, and I have outgrown the need for sleep. I have hunted alphas before. I have watched the great leaders weep for mercy as their throats opened. I have seen their strength crumble into the cowardice of any other animal. And yet, when I whisper the name Selene, something in my blood rebels, a primal dissonance. her scent a violent cocktail of crushed pine, ozone, and ancient wildness claws at the air. The wolf within me, the one I thought I had starved into submission, stirs. It isn't the cold chill of fear. It is a recognition, a deep, tectonic shifting of my internal plates. She is a deviation from the rule. Unlike the tyrants I've slaughtered, her power doesn't smell of fear. Her pack doesn't follow because they are afraid to die. They follow because they are proud to live under her light. There is a feral, terrifying beauty in that kind of devotion. They follow because she is their North Star. She leads with a devastating empathy, a bond formed not from chains, but from a shared soul. They are a family, a concept as foreign to me as the stars are to the blind. So why does the edge of my blade feel heavy? Why does my pulse drum a frantic rhythm against my ribs when I visualize her face? I have to crush it. Doubt is the rust that ruins the tool. Doubt is the path back to being human, and I traded my humanity for a seat at Viktor's right hand. The mission is absolute. Find her. Break her. Bring the core. I am Derek Winters. I am the end of the story. I am a killer, and this is my purpose. But as I stare into the dark, I wonder if I am the hunter, or if I am simply the first lamb being led to the slaughter of my own convictions. I've been tracking her for days, and the world is changing around me. The Silver Moon territory isn't just land, it's a living, breathing warning. Every step I take feels like I'm sinking into a realm that wasn't built for men like me. The trees are ancient, gnarled giants standing like silent sentinels, their branches entwined like fingers, clutching secrets centuries old. The air is heavy, thick with the scent of crushed pine and damp moss. A silver mist clings to the underbrush, swirling around my legs like the ghosts of the fallen. It pulls at my senses, disorienting me, drawing me deeper into the heart of a kingdom I was never meant to understand. This place belongs to her. I feel it in the marrow of my bones. The earth shifts beneath my boots, as if it recognizes an intruder. This isn't just forest. It's Selene Thorne's nervous system. Her power is woven into the very fabric of the soil. The land itself seems to bow to her, and I realize with a jolt of ice in my veins that I am walking on sacred ground. I move like a shadow, my instincts screaming at me to remain lethal, to remain unseen. I've hunted the most dangerous predators on the planet, but here, for the first time, I feel like the prey. A rustle, the faintest crack in the silence. My heart skips, my muscles coiling with the hair-trigger readiness of a wolf sensing a trap. I've found her. The clearing opens ahead, bathed in a soft, spectral light filtering through the canopy. She stands there, as still as the earth, as alive as the forest itself. Selene. She isn't the monster the rumors described. There is no roar, no terrifying display of violence. But her eyes, those piercing silver eyes, are ancient. They carry the weight of bloodlines as old as the moon. There is something untouchable about her, a quiet grandeur that makes me feel like a flickering shadow in the presence of a sun. She is more than an alpha. She is the heartbeat of the world. The wind moves through her hair as if paying homage. Her breath follows the rhythm of the woods. She is beautiful. Yes, but it is a cold, lethal beauty. She doesn't just command her pack. She embodies them. The mist parts. The air pressure drops. She knows I'm here. She's been waiting for the moment our stars collided. I've been expecting you, Derek Winters. Her voice is a soft rumble, a sound that cuts through the haze of my mind like a blade. When she says my name, it's not a greeting, it's a claim. I was sent to kill you, I rasp. The words taste like poison. I hate them, but they are the only truth I have left. She doesn't flinch. She doesn't run. She looks at me as if she already knows the ending to my story. And then, she moves. She is faster than a heartbeat, faster than a storm breaking the silence. She becomes a blur of silver motion, a seamless extension of the wild. Her claws extend with a deadly, predatory grace, slicing through the air with the force of a hurricane. I dive, the wind from her strike burning my skin. I'm not fast enough. She comes again, her speed overwhelming my training. I try to defend, but my blade feels like a toy against the fury of nature itself. Her strikes come in waves, relentless, devastating, crushing. I stagger back as her claws find purchase, tearing through my flesh with a white-hot scream of pain. Blood spills, staining the ancient roots, staining the earth she calls home. My strength is a leaking vessel. My balance is gone. But still, she comes. I've faced butchers and beasts, but fighting Selene is like fighting the tide. I am drowning in her power. Her strikes are like waves crashing against a cliff, testing my resolve, shattering my bones. Suddenly, the violence stops. She steps back, her chest rising and falling in a controlled, rhythmic swell. There is no malice in her gaze, no triumph, only a terrifying, deep-seated calm. "Why do you fight, Derek?" she asks, her voice softening but losing none of its power. "Why are you here?" The question hits me harder than any physical blow. It probes the places I've kept locked in the dark. My heart hammers against my ribs, and for a second, the mask of the assassin slips. I want to answer her, but the words are choked by the iron grip of my mission. "I'm here to kill you," I growl, forcing the words out. "It's my purpose. It's my cage." I prepare to strike, to reclaim my dignity as a killer. But she is already gone. She lunges faster than my eyes can track, faster than my nerves can fire. This time, there is no dodging. Her claws tear into my side, a cold, final punctuation mark to our battle. The forest, the silver eyes, the red stain on the grass. It all fades. The world goes black, and I fall into the silence of the moon. I don't know how long I've been lying here. Time has lost its shape, dissolving into a jagged blur of agony and shadow. The world spins around me, a carousel of dark branches and silver moonlight that I can no longer track. My breath comes in shallow, labored gasps, each one a battle against the rising tide in my lungs. My vision is a fractured lens, blurring the edges of the forest until the trees look like weeping ghosts. The pain is more than physical. It is a firestorm. It courses through my veins like molten lead, sharp and unrelenting, burning away the cold assassin I spent years becoming. My side feels like a hollow ruin, as if my very wolf spirit is being unspooled, ripped from the vessel of my flesh by a force it cannot comprehend. My blood is everywhere. It pools beneath me, warm and defiant, staining the ancient earth and mingling with the fallen leaves. I watch it soak into the dirt, and a terrifying thought flickers through the haze. I am feeding the land that is trying to kill me. I try to lift my hand, to find some purchase against the soil, to push my broken body back into a world of action. But I am betrayed. My muscles are water. My wolf, the part of me that was always the apex, always untamed, is retreating into the dark, whimpering like a beaten cur. I am becoming nothing. I am becoming silence. But then the world stops. The forest falls into a sudden, eerie stillness, as if the wind itself has been ordered to hold its breath. The insects go quiet. The rustle of the leaves ceases. I feel her before I see her. Her power doesn't walk. It radiates. It ripples through the air like an electric current, a low-frequency hum that makes the hair on my arms stand up despite the cold. It is the signature of a true sovereign. Then, she is there, standing over me like a celestial judgment. Selene Thorne. Her eyes are fixed on mine, burning with a silver intensity that cuts through the fog of my dying mind. There is no fear in her, No frantic adrenaline of a survivor. There is only a terrifying, deep-seated clarity. Her gaze speaks directly to the part of me I've spent a lifetime burying, the part that remembers what it felt like to be a person, not a weapon. I wait for the end. I expect the final strike, the coup de grace that will satisfy the contract I brought to her doorstep. She has the right. She has the power. She could erase me from this timeline with a single flex of her will, just as she has done to every other fool who dared to threaten the silver moon. But the blow never comes. She just stands there, a titan of shadow and moonlight, watching me with a gaze that isn't hateful. It is merciful, and that mercy hurts worse than her claws. I try to speak. I want to curse her, to go out with the snarl of a Volkov enforcer, but all that escapes my lips is a choked, wet gasp. The metallic bitterness of blood wells up in my mouth, coating my tongue in the taste of my own failure. My strength is a guttering candle. The alpha's instinct, the drive to fight until the last heartbeat, is still there, but it is drowning under the crushing weight of my exhaustion. Then, the unthinkable happens. Selene kneels. Her movements are fluid, possessing a grace that belongs to the wilds, hypnotic and ancient. She reaches out a hand, not a claw, but a hand, and places it firmly against my chest. The contact is a physical shock. Her touch is a paradox. It burns with the heat of a sun, yet it soothes like ice on a fever. It pulls at me, connecting my fractured soul to something vast and echoing. Her palm is warm, radiating a heat that feels older than the trees, and as it rests over the jagged ruin of my side, a strange sensation floods my system. A shift, a tectonic realignment of my being. It isn't just healing. This isn't some simple medicinal trick. Her very essence is flowing into me, a river of silver light pouring into a dry well. She is binding me to her, tethering my fading life to her own unstoppable heartbeat. I try to recoil, to pull away from the intimacy of it, but I am pinned by her grace. In that moment, a dam inside me bursts. A decade of numbness, of calculated violence, and hollow loyalty comes rushing back in a tidal wave of memory. It is overwhelming. It is agonizing. It is life. Her voice fractures the darkness, soft and steady as a heartbeat. You're not dying, Derek Winters. Not yet. I have no words left. I don't even know if I want to keep them. My body screams for the darkness, for the sweet, easy surrender of the abyss. But her voice is an anchor. Her touch is a chain. They hold me here, suspended between worlds, refusing to let me drift away. I feel the wound in my side begin to knit. It is a sickening, miraculous sensation, the flesh stitching itself back together. The deep, ragged gash fading into a faint, silver scar. She is pulling the pain out of me, piece by piece, as if she were weeding a garden. But as the body heals, the soul fractures. My wolf spirit, my heart, my very identity, everything is being reshaped in her image. I look at her then. I truly look at her. Her eyes are dark pools of ancient wisdom, but they aren't cold. I see no triumph there, no arrogance of a victor. I see compassion. It shakes me to my very marrow. It reaches into the hidden vaults of my heart, the places I buried under layers of anger and the lies Viktor told me. She is not just an alpha leader. She is something else. She is alive in a way I have never been. I was raised to believe that mercy was a sickness, that kindness was a flaw in the steel. But standing before her, I see the truth. There is a terrifying strength in mercy. It takes a monster to destroy, but it takes a god to save. She pulls her hand back, her touch lingering for a heartbeat longer, a soft caress against the wreckage of my soul. Why did you come here, Derek? Why did you come for me? The question is a void, I try to find the old answers, the mission, the contract, the loyalty to Volkov, but they feel like ash in my mouth. They are empty. She is right. Why am I here? Was it really just to kill? To take a power I didn't understand? I want to answer, but the man who had those answers died in the dirt 10 minutes ago. I don't know who I am anymore. Not with her standing there, showing me a world I never knew existed. I don't know how to face the truth, but I feel it. Deep down, the machine is breaking, and for the first time in my life, I'm not sure I want to fix it. I wake slowly, as though the world itself is afraid to startle me, easing me back into its folds with a tenderness I haven't earned. My consciousness returns in fragments, the dull, heavy ache in my bones being the first to settle. It is a grim reminder that my encounter with Selene Thorne was no mere skirmish. It was a total dismantling of my being. Her strength. It isn't just a matter of muscle and sinew. It is an echo that lingers in the very marrow of my skeleton, an ancient and unstoppable resonance. I can feel it in every breath, her essence woven into the oxygen I draw, as if her presence has claimed the very atmosphere. She is the sovereign of this land, and even in sleep, I felt the soil beneath me humming in rhythm with her heartbeat. I try to move, but my limbs are anchors of lead, shackled to an invisible weight. Every muscle protests, and the wolf inside me, the predator I once relied upon, stirs with a pathetic, fractured weakness. The blood on my side has dried, leaving a stiff, dark memory against my skin, but the wound feels different. There is a warmth coursing through my veins. It isn't the frantic heat of a fever, but something deeper, more ancestral. It is a wolf's warmth, the feeling of being buried deep within a pack during a killing winter, protected from the gale by the bodies of brothers. Selene. She is the fire keeping me from the frost. It wasn't just a physical act of healing. It was an infusion of her spirit, a tether she threw into the abyss to pull me back from the brink. My eyes flutter open to the soft, amber glow of a cabin. The walls are rough-hewn wood, scarred by time and survival, speaking of a life that is raw and honest. There is no high-tech coldness here, no sterile luxury of the Volkov estate. It is a place of pure, unadorned existence. The silence is broken only by the rhythmic crackle of a fire in the hearth. The flames dance across the ceiling, mirroring the slow, heavy thrum of my own pulse. The air carries the scent of wood smoke and crushed herbs, lavender, yarrow, and cedar scents that dull the jagged edges of my pain. For years, the only smell I knew was the metallic tang of blood and the acrid stench of gunpowder. Here, those ghosts have been banished. I fill my lungs with the crisp, clean air and realize with a jolt of terror that I am not just breathing. For the first time in a decade, I am living. I attempt to sit up, but the world tilts. My body is a stranger to me. Lying here, stripped of my armor and my mission, I feel the crushing weight of my own humanity, the soft, vulnerable part of me I buried under layers of iron and ice. I was forged to be a tool, a weapon that kills without question. But a weapon doesn't feel the warmth of a fire. A weapon doesn't feel the sting of its own shame. The sound of the door creaking open shatters my reflection. Footsteps, soft, measured, and absolute. I don't need to look. Her presence fills the room like a rising tide before she even enters my line of sight. She is a quiet force, a storm that has learned how to whisper. Her scent reaches me first, wild, untamed pine and ozone, but beneath it is something new, something soothing. She steps into the light, and our gazes lock. Selene Thorne, the Alpha Queen, the target. There is no malice in her silver eyes. I have never seen power like this. Viktor rules through the breaking of bones and the chilling of hearts. He demands loyalty through fear. But Selene? She commands through connection. She doesn't need to shout to be heard. The very earth listens when she breathes. There is a gentle, terrifying authority in her, a quiet strength that makes you want to follow her into the dark, not because you are afraid to die, but because you are eager to be led by her light. She is made of something ancient, something I have never been allowed to touch. "Your wounds have healed well," she says. Her voice is a balm, calm and melodic, devoid of the triumph I expected. I thought she would gloat. I thought she would revel in the fact that the Volkov's greatest hound was now shivering in her blankets. But there is no ego in her words, no domination, only a natural, terrifying peace. She moves closer to check my bandages, and I flinch. It's an instinctive, pathetic reaction. I've never been touched like this, not without a weapon in my hand or a threat in the air. I have kept the world at arm's length my entire life, especially Viktor. But Selene doesn't ask for permission. She simply acts. As her hands brush against my skin, I feel a strange liquid warmth. She isn't just stitching my flesh, she is repairing something I didn't even know was broken. Her touch pulls at the knots in my soul, demanding that I remain still, demanding that I feel. I want to snarl. I want to tell her to remember who I am, to remember that I came here to harvest her heart. But the words die in my throat. Her hands are steady, her touch radiating a compassion that shakes me to the core of my identity. The wolf inside me stirs not with rage, but with a profound, terrifying confusion. For the first time since I was a child, before the world turned to stone and blood, I feel like a man, and that is the most dangerous thing she could have done to me. I want to scream. I want to roar at her that she is mistaken, that she is nursing a viper back to health. I want to tell her that I have been a dealer of death for so long, that mercy is a foreign tongue I cannot speak, and compassion is a poison I cannot digest. But as the words form in my mind, they feel hollow, brittle. The lie is losing its grip. For years, I wore my ruthlessness like a suit of armor, but Selene has found the chinks in the steel. The truth is beginning to bleed through the bandages, and I loathe it. I hate how effortlessly she has bypassed my defenses. I hate that she didn't use a blade to do it, but a gentle hand and a silent gaze. She has made me a stranger to myself, and in the quiet of this cabin, the man I thought I was is dying faster than the wolf she healed. The hours stretch into a long golden blur. Selene leaves the cabin, but her departure doesn't bring the cold back. She tells me I am safe. She tells me I am free to rest. These are words I have never been permitted to own. Safety was always a temporary state between contracts. Rest was a weakness that invited a knife in the dark. I lie there, staring at the grain of the wooden ceiling, listening to the world outside. The cabin isn't an island. It's a lung, breathing with the rhythm of the pack. I can hear them, the low, melodic murmur of voices, the rhythmic thud of boots pressing into the loam, the soft, playful yips of younger wolves, and the steady, confident shuffle of the elders. I know they are aware of me. I am the monster in their midst, the intruder who came to steal their heart, and yet I don't feel watched by eyes of malice. I don't feel the jagged tension of an enemy camp. It is different. They move with a profound sense of purpose, a collective understanding of their place in the world. There is no hesitation in their step, no fear of the alpha's lash. They move like a single, living entity, and I realize that Selene isn't just their leader. She is the pulse in their veins. I drag myself to the window, my muscles screaming in protest, and watch them through the glass. They work in a harmony so perfect it feels like music. I see a warrior share a meal with a scout. I see an elder lean on the shoulder of a youth. There is a terrifying, beautiful lack of ego here. And that is when the realization hits me like a physical blow to the chest. I have never seen loyalty like this. Not in the concrete halls of the Volkov estate, not in the dark alleys where I did my master's bidding. Viktor rules through the economy of fear. He buys obedience with the threat of pain and rewards it with the promise of survival. But here, the currency is different. The Silver Moon Pack follows Selene not because they are afraid to die by her hand, but because they are proud to live by her side. Their loyalty isn't a debt. It's a devotion. It isn't born of duty. It's born of a bond so deep the humans call it love. And looking at them, I feel a cold, sharp ache that has nothing to do with my wounds. I feel envious, a bitter, starving envy for a life I was told was a myth. I am supposed to be recovering. My mind should be sharpening, calculating the exit points, locating my misplaced weapons, and planning the final strike on the Alpha Queen. I should be a weapon returning to its edge. Instead, I feel as if I am dissolving. The weight of my past is no longer a badge of honor. It is a mountain of corpses pressing down on my lungs, suffocating me. Every kill I've ever made, every name I've crossed off with a stroke of red ink now has a face. I hear the silence of the lives I've extinguished, and it's deafening. I have followed Viktor Volkov without question. I have been his shadow, his tool, his instrument of erasure. I told myself it was for power. I told myself it was for survival. But as I watch a mother in the clearing below nuzzle her pup, I realize that I haven't been surviving at all. I have been a ghost, walking through a world of the living. I think of her again, the way she didn't flinch when I told her I was sent to kill her, the way she knelt in the dirt and used her own light to stitch my darkness back together. Why? Why would a queen save the assassin? Why would a goddess care for a grain of sand? She has forced me to look into a mirror I've avoided for a decade. Am I just a tool? A hollow piece of steel forged in Viktor's image? Is that the beginning and the end of my story? Or is there something else beneath the scars and the bloodstains? Something I've never allowed myself to see because I was too afraid of what it might demand of me. The machine is broken. The killer is gone. And in the silence of the silver moon, I am left with the most terrifying realization of all. I don't know who Derek Winters is, and I'm terrified that Selene Thorne does. The days here are quiet, so much quieter than the world I was built for. Silence, I've found, is a far more dangerous enemy than noise. In the city, in the heat of a contract, the roar of my own blood and the chaos of the mission kept me numb. But here, the air is thick with the fragrance of crushed pine and damp earth, wrapping around me like a heavy velvet fog. It is a softness that suffocates. My senses, once honed to a razor's edge for the hunt, feel dull and sluggish. My mind, which was once a frantic battlefield of tactical orders and violent contingencies, has become a stagnant pool. Every moment spent in this cabin, watching the flickering firelight dance against the rough-hewn walls, pushes me deeper into the chasm. On one side stands the ghost of the man I was, on the other, the terrifying shadow of who I might become. Selene is always there. Even when she is not in the room, the atmosphere is saturated with her. It is in the way the shadows lean away from the hearth, the way the ground seems to hum with a low-frequency vibration whenever her feet touch the soil. Her wolf nature pulls at the edges of my consciousness, like a distant, mournful howl, impossible to reach, yet impossible to ignore. She doesn't demand my confession. She doesn't interrogate my soul. She simply exists, and in the space between her silences, I find myself wanting to break the glass. I find myself wanting to be known. Tonight, the fire crackles with a rhythmic, hypnotic snap. She sits across from me, the orange light carving deep valleys into the landscape of her face. Her eyes are steady, anchored in a reality I can't yet grasp. There is no judgment there, none of the cold, condescending superiority I've come to expect from those who hold the power of life and death. She looks through my armor, through the scars and the lies, and she sees the hollow architecture underneath. "I know what it's like," she says. Her voice is a low vibration that echoes in my chest. "To have a purpose handed to you. To be made into something by someone else's design. To live only to serve." The words are a physical weight. I look at her, my throat tight, wondering if she can see the iron chains I've worn for a decade. The chains forged by Viktor Volkov. I've been a prisoner of duty for so long that I've mistaken my cage for my skin. "It's a heavy thing, isn't it?" she continues, her gaze never wavering. "To be told who you are. To be made to believe you have no choice but to follow the path carved into the dirt before you." She pauses, and for a heartbeat, I see a flash of something ancient and vulnerable in her. "But you do have a choice, Derek. We all do. Even when the world feels too heavy to bear." I want to laugh. I want to scoff at the naivety of a queen who was born to lead. I want to tell her that she has never felt the cold steel of a master's will bending her soul into a hook. But something in the absolute conviction of her voice stops me. What if the lock on my cage has been open this entire time? What if the only thing keeping me in the dark was my own fear of the light? Her words are like claws, tearing at the walls I've spent a lifetime reinforcing. I try to brush them off, to dismiss her as a dreamer who hasn't seen the true rot of the world. But they cling to me like a cold sweat. For years, Viktor was the sun around which my entire universe orbited. He was the architect of my reality. To question him was to question the sun for rising. But here, in the sanctuary of the silver moon, I see a different kind of power. Viktor rules with a fist of iron and a heart of ice. He breaks his people until they are too shattered to do anything but obey. Selene doesn't break. She builds. She doesn't demand obedience through the threat of the lash. She earns it through the weight of her character. She doesn't dominate the land. She breathes with it. Watching her, I feel a dormant part of my spirit stir. Could I have been more than a weapon? Could I have been a shield? I lie in the dark of the cabin, staring at the ceiling as the embers die. I have spent my life making the easy decisions, the ones that required only blood and silence. Kill the target. Fade into the night. No questions. No doubts. But now, every choice I've ever made feels like a stone tied to my neck. Sleep is not a refuge. It is a courtroom. The shadows of my past creep into my dreams like uninvited mourners. I see the faces. So many faces. Some are crisp and clear, their final expressions of shock etched into my retinas. Others are fading into the gray, like ghosts losing their grip on the world. I dream of the first kill. I am young, and the air is cold. Viktor stands over me, his shadow a black stain on the snow. He watches with those calculating, reptilian eyes as I end a life because he told me it was necessary. I remember the look on his face when it was done, the pride. He didn't see a boy. He saw a tool coming off the assembly line. He saw a weapon that would never rust. But as I wake in the cabin, the pride I once felt for that moment has turned to ash. The faces I've taken don't just haunt my sleep. They are the silent audience to my waking hours. The weight of their deaths is heavier than any blade I've ever carried. I've lived in this emptiness for so long, trying to fill the hole with more violence, more loyalty, more blood. But Selene's warmth has shown me the truth of my own poverty. I have been a man dying of thirst in a world of rain. I've been surviving, taking, existing, but I have never lived. I have been a tool of death, never realizing that life was an option. As I look toward the window where the first hint of dawn touches the forest, I realize the most terrifying thing of all. I am finally awake, and I don't think I can ever go back to sleep. The days stretch on, each one bleeding into the next, and I'm slowly becoming something different, something I don't fully understand. The healing is a slow, agonizing process, but the pain in my ribs is nothing compared to the reconstruction happening within. It isn't just my body recovering. It is something deeper, something primal that defies the logic of my training. I have spent my entire life building walls. I constructed them out of silence, out of iron, and out of the blood of those I was sent to erase. I lived in the shadows, a weapon to be drawn, used, and then forgotten in the dark. I was never seen. I was merely experienced as an ending. But here, in the light of the silver moon, those walls are not just crumbling, they are being pulverized. The pack's influence surrounds me, a constant humming frequency that is more powerful than anything I ever felt in Viktor's presence. The emptiness inside me, a void I thought was permanent, is beginning to fill, and the terrifying truth is that Selene is the one pouring the life back into me. She doesn't do it with a plan. There is no calculation in her kindness, no hidden agenda in her care. She simply is. Her presence, her quiet strength, her way of existing in harmony with the world it all calls to a part of me I thought had died a long time ago. I never believed I could feel this way. I never believed I would want to. But she makes me want to feel, even if the feeling burns. I find myself watching her with a new, sharper clarity. She is no longer just the alpha queen. She isn't the target or the legend anymore. She is a shield. She is a savior to those who have nothing else. She doesn't lead with the jagged edge of iron or the blunt force of fear. She leads from the marrow, from the very core of her being. It is the antithesis of everything I was taught. I was raised to believe that strength was the ability to dominate, to control, to snuff out any flame that didn't serve the master. But Selene's strength is a different element entirely. It is in the way she speaks to a frightened scout, the way she walks among her people without the need for a guard. There is an undeniable tenderness in her authority, a bond of love and trust that I once dismissed as a fairy tale for the weak. She cares, and in her caring, she is more powerful than Viktor could ever hope to be. The realization hits me when I least expect it. I no longer see her through the sights of a rifle or the edge of a blade. The current of her grace has seeped into my blood, and when I look at her now, I see someone I admire, someone I respect, someone I would bleed for. It is a frightening, beautiful weight in my chest. For years I was a hollow vessel, a thing of gears and orders. But now, I feel alive. I feel the terrifying electric spark of a soul. Leadership, I now see, isn't about the height of your throne or the depth of the graves you dig. It's about understanding. It's about knowing the hearts of the people you protect and guiding them through the storm with empathy as your compass. I could never have been that man. I was never shown the way. But as I watch her, a desperate, aching hunger grows inside me. I want to learn. I want to know how to lead with compassion instead of cruelty. I want to stop merely surviving and start truly living. And it terrifies me to admit that I want to be worthy of the air she breathes. In the quiet hours, when the fire has burned down to glowing embers and the world outside holds its breath, the truth finally corners me. I cannot go back. I've been running from this realization for days, trying to hide in the shadows of my old life, but the doors have been locked behind me. My past, the bloodshed, the contracts, the hollow loyalty to Viktor Volkov, it is all ash. I cannot return to that world of cold steel and colder hearts. The man I was, the weapon forged in the fires of violence, no longer fits in the skin I'm wearing. I am suffocating in the memory of the assassin. I look at Selene, and the weight of the universe crashes down on my shoulders. She isn't an obstacle to be overcome. She is everything I never knew I needed. She is the light I didn't think I deserved. I will protect her. It isn't a choice anymore. It isn't a mission handed down by a master. It is a fundamental truth that has settled in the center of my being. My past is crumbling away like dust in a gale, leaving only this one singular resolve. I will protect her, no matter the cost. no matter the blood I have to shed to keep her safe. I don't know what that means for a man like me. I don't know how a killer becomes a guardian, but as I look at her, I see that she isn't looking at the monster I used to be. She isn't looking at me with suspicion or the caution you show a caged animal. She looks at me as if she can see the man I am becoming, the man she salvaged from the dirt. For the first time in my life, I am ready to step out of the shadows. I am ready to be someone worth protecting. I am ready to stand by her side, not as a weapon, but as a man who has finally found a reason to live. I am Derek Winters, and my mission has finally begun. The wind shifts with a sudden, violent chill, and the silence that follows is not the peaceful hush of the silver moon. It is a heavy, suffocating vacuum, the kind of silence that precedes an avalanche. I hear the sound before the shadow appears, the rhythmic thud of boots pressing into the earth. They are deliberate, unwavering, tectonic. Every instinct I've spent a decade honing screams into position. My muscles coil. My heart hardens into a knot of cold lead. I don't need to see him to know who has breached this sanctuary. I know the gravity of his soul. The figure that steps from the tree line is a ghost from a nightmare I thought I had escaped. Viktor Blackthorn, my mentor, my creator, the man who took a broken boy and forged him into a masterless hound. His presence alone is a physical assault, dragging the world back into its old, jagged rhythm. The rhythm of the lash and the contract. Standing there, he looks less like a man and more like an effigy carved from obsidian, unyielding and immovable. His eyes lock onto mine. There is no shock in them, no relief that I am alive. There is only fury, a vast, silent ocean of it that has always been the weather of my life. And in that gaze, a terrifying realization takes hold. The man I was is trying to crawl back into my skin. Derek, Viktor says. His voice is a low, controlled rumble, carrying the atmospheric pressure of an impending storm. It is the sound of a hammer falling on an anvil. You've failed me. Again. The words hang between us like a death sentence. There is no warmth in his tone, no paternal concern for the scars on my side. There is only the clinical assessment of a broken tool. To Viktor, I am not a person who bled. I am a weapon that misfired. You were supposed to kill her, he says, taking a measured step forward. The shadows of the ancient trees stretch across his face like war paint. You were supposed to finish the mission. You were supposed to bring me what is mine. In those words, what is mine, I hear the echo of my entire existence. I was his. The mission was his. Even my death was supposed to belong to him. I can feel the old pull, the gravitational hook of a decade of indoctrination. It's a siren song of certainties, a world where I don't have to think, only act, where I don't have to feel, only destroy. I feel the hesitation. It's a sickening, cold weight in my gut. The part of me that Selene awakened, the part that learned the scent of mercy and the value of a life, is screaming now. It is clawing at the interior of my chest, desperate to be heard. But Viktor is a vacuum. He sucks the air out of the room until only his will remains. I try to bury the new man. I try to hide the weakness of my compassion. But the walls I've built are no longer made of stone. They are made of glass, and they are shattering. I won't kill her, Viktor. The words feel foreign, as if they were spoken by a ghost inhabiting my body. They taste like copper and defiance. I can hear the tremor in my own pulse, the weakness of a man who is still learning how to stand on his own feet. But beneath the fear, there is a hard, crystalline core of resolve that wasn't there before. I won't finish this mission, I say, my voice growing steadier, cutting through the heavy air. Not for you. Not for anyone. Viktor stops. The forest seems to shrink back from him. A slow, predatory smile touches his lips, a look that has always preceded the most brutal lessons of my life. He looks at me not as a rebel, but as a dog that needs to be reminded who holds the leash. The air between us is electric, thick with the history of every life we've taken together. For the first time, I am looking at my Creator and seeing him for what he truly is, a thief of souls. A man who builds his kingdom on the corpses of the loyal. I think of the cabin. I think of the warmth of the fire and the silver light in Selene's eyes. I think of the man she saw in me, the man worth saving. The choice is made. There is no path back to the shadows. I am standing in the light of the silver moon, and for the first time in my life, I am not fighting for a contract. I am fighting for myself. The mission is over, Viktor, I whisper, my hand moving toward the hilt of the blade he gave me. And so is your hold on me. For a moment, Viktor says nothing. The silence is a physical weight, pressing against my lungs like the atmosphere of a dying planet. His gaze remains locked on mine, those dark, calculating eyes that once made me feel invincible when they looked upon me with favor. For a decade, his approval was my only sun. But now, the light has gone out. The heat he radiates is the cold of a tomb. Standing before him, I realize that the invincibility he offered was a lie. It was never strength. It was just the numbness of a soul being paved over with iron. I knew you'd fail me, he says finally. His voice is thick with contempt, so sharp it should draw blood. I should have killed you when I had the chance. I should have left you in the gutter where I found you. The words cut, but they don't find the bone. In the past, his disapproval was a death sentence. To be a failure in Viktor's eyes was to lose my right to exist. But as I stand in the clearing of the silver moon, I see the strings he's been pulling. I see the puppet master's hands. I am nothing more than a toy he is frustrated he can no longer break. The realization eats away at the last of my loyalty, leaving only a bitter, clarifying ash. You think you're better than me, don't you? Viktor sneers, taking a slow, predatory step closer. You think you've found redemption in this wilderness, with that pack of hers. But that's a fairy tale for the dying, Derek. You aren't better than me. You're weak. You always have been. You were the boy who cried for mercy, and I was the man who taught you how to stop. The words are intended to stoke the old fire. The shame, the resentment, the desperate need to prove him wrong by being the monster he wants. And for a second, the old habit flinches. I feel the sinking truth of how much of myself I surrendered to his design. I let him carve his name into my spirit. I believed in his gospel of blood. I don't want your power, Viktor, I say. My voice is steady, a calm island in the center of the whirlwind. I don't want to be the shadow in the corner of your throne. I don't want to be a weapon. I am not your tool. He scoffs, his lips curling into a jagged, joyless sneer. It's the look of a man who believes the game is already over. A look that says, no matter how far I run, I will always be the shape he gave me. You will be my weapon, he snarls. You were born for it. You are nothing without my guidance, Derek. I gave you a name. I gave you a purpose. I made you a god among men, and you threw it away for a handful of dirt and the pity of a wolf? I flinch at the rawness of it. There is a jagged truth in his accusation. He did shape me. He did teach me how to survive. But the truth I feel in my marrow now is that Viktor never owned me. He merely occupied the empty space where my soul should have been. He didn't give me strength. He gave me his own cruelty and called it power. As he stands there, his hands clenched into white-knuckled fists, the illusion shatters. I am not his puppet. I am not a legacy of his violence. I am the man who survived him. I'm not your weapon anymore, Viktor, I say. The words come easier now, flowing with a natural, rhythmic certainty. I won't kill Selene. I won't return to the cage. You don't control the air in my lungs anymore. Viktor erupts. With a movement so blurred it's almost impossible to track, he lunges forward, his hand raised as if to strike the life from my body. It is the movement that used to make me bow my head in terror. But this time, I don't move. I don't flinch. I look him in the eye and wait. He stops. His fingers twitch with a desperate, frustrated rage. The air between us crackles with the heat of his fury, but the fear, the old parasitic fear that used to hold me in place, is dead. It has been replaced by a quiet, immovable peace. The silence stretches, thick and heavy with the weight of 10 years of blood. Finally, Viktor lowers his hand. The rage in his eyes doesn't fade. It simply freezes, turning into something colder and more final. "I gave you everything, Derek," he whispers. It's the voice of a creditor demanding a debt that can never be paid. "And this is how you repay me. You think you can just walk away from the blood on your hands, from the man I made you?" I don't blink. I don't look away. "Yes," I answer, "because I don't owe you anything. The debt was paid with every life I took in your name. We're even." Viktor stares at me, searching for a flicker of the old doubt, a trace of the boy who wanted his father's love. But he finds nothing. I am a closed book to him now. Without another word, he turns on his heel. His cloak swishes through the air like the wings of a scavenger bird as he retreats back into the shadows of the forest. The storm that has raged inside me for a decade, the one I thought would eventually consume me, begins to settle. The clouds part. The choice is made. I am standing in the heart of the silver moon, and for the first time in my life, I know exactly who I am. I am not a killer. I am not a weapon. I am a man who has chosen to be free. I turn back toward the cabin, toward the light, and toward the woman who saw the man beneath the monster. The path ahead is unknown, and likely paved with blood. But for the first time, it is my path to walk. The air in the clearing is no longer oxygen. It is a pressurized wall of tension. Every muscle in my body is screaming, a chorus of old wounds and new fire, but I stand like an iron spire. I feel the weight of Viktor's gaze pressing down on me like a vice, a dark gravity that once kept my soul in orbit around his will. The man who raised me, the architect of my every sin, now stands as the final barrier between me and the light. His presence is a suffocating blanket of shadow, but for the first time in my life, I am not cold. He takes a step forward, and I do not flinch. Viktor's fury is a physical thing, crackling in the space between us like static electricity before a lightning strike. He won't hold back. He has never known the meaning of restraint. And this time, neither will I. "Derek," he growls. The sound is a low, predatory rumble that used to make my blood turn to ice. "You think you can defy me? You think you can walk away after everything I've given you?" The words cut through the air, but they shatter against the shield Selene built within me. They have no edge, no poison. The chains that have bound me for a decade are finally snapping, and the sound of their breaking is the most beautiful thing I've ever heard. I feel weightless. The manipulation, the guilt, the shadow of the man he wanted me to be, it all evaporates. I am finished with his world. He lunges. It is a movement beyond human capability, a blur of predatory geometry. In the past, I would have frozen, paralyzed by the sheer velocity of his wrath. But today, I am ready. I don't hesitate. I don't calculate. My movements are fluid, governed by a new, silver instinct. As his fist swings toward my temple with the force of a falling star, I sidestep. The air from his strike burns my cheek, and his fist cracks against the stone wall of the outcropping behind me. The impact shakes the very earth beneath our boots, sending a shockwave through the loam. But I am the storm now. I am in control. I feel it, the pulse of the silver moon beneath my feet. The bond between Selene and me is a raw, electric current surging through my veins. It isn't a weapon, it is an awakening. I can feel the earth's heartbeat, the swirling energy of the wind, and the primal heat of the land. I am no longer a puppet on a string. I am a force of nature in my own right. Viktor isn't just a target. He is the personification of my own history. Every blow I dodge is a rejection of his philosophy. Every strike I land is a reclamation of my soul. He comes at me again, his rage stripping away his usual cold precision, making him reckless. He is a dying god, fighting for a throne that no longer exists. I raise my hand, and the world around us responds. I don't know the mechanics of it, I only know the necessity. The air crackles with a sudden violent energy, and a wave of raw force bursts from my center. It catches Viktor mid-air, slamming him back into the dirt with the weight of a mountain. His eyes widen, and for a fleeting, glorious second, I see it, the flicker of uncertainty. The realization that the weapon he forged has outgrown the hand that holds it. I don't give him the mercy of a breath. I charge. The world slows into a series of crystal-clear moments. My fist connects with his jaw, a strike backed by the weight of every life I ever took for him. He rises, his face a mask of primal fury, a beast stripped of its pretense. He is fast, he is immense, but his strength is fueled by the desperation of a man who is losing his grip on reality. I dodge his wild swings, feeling the rush of adrenaline as my heartbeat syncs with the rhythm of the forest. In the back of my mind, her voice echoes like a silver bell. Protect what you love. The words are a mantra, a fuel that burns brighter than Viktor's hate. My fists fly with a speed I never possessed under his tutelage. Each blow is backed by the bond, by the quiet strength of the silver moon. Viktor falters. His movements become sluggish, erratic, his legendary precision dissolving into the flailing of a wounded predator. This isn't a battle of muscle anymore. It's a battle of identity, and he is losing. His next move is a frantic, desperate swing aimed at my head, but I am already a ghost. I sidestep his arc, and in one seamless motion, I sweep his legs and bring him crashing to the ground. He hits the earth with a sickening thud, the wind leaving his lungs in a ragged, pathetic wheeze. I stand over him. My chest heaves. My body is a map of fire and exhaustion, but the fear is gone. There is only a quiet, crystalline certainty. Viktor looks up at me from the dirt, his eyes twin pits of disbelief and ancient anger. I look back, and I feel nothing. No guilt, no lingering debt. Only the profound silence of a door finally being closed. You failed me, he spits, his voice a jagged rasp. The accusation is hollow. It is a ghost word from a life I no longer recognize. No, I say, my voice steady, resonant with the power of the land itself. I'm not failing you. I'm freeing myself. In the heavy silence that follows, the weight of the years finally lifts. I am no longer the shadow of a master. I am not the echo of a killer. Viktor is defeated not by the strength of my fists, but by the fact that I no longer believe in him. I have let go of the chains. I have walked out of the cage. And as I turn my back on the man who thought he owned me, I finally feel the sun on my face. I am my own man. And for the first time, the world ahead of me is wide, and it is mine. The world is different now. The air has changed, thickened by the dust of fallen stone and the heavy scent of spent lightning. It feels as though the earth itself is holding its breath, waiting for the reality of Viktor's defeat to settle into the soil. The adrenaline and the fury that sustained me during the fight have evaporated, leaving behind a hollow quiet that seems to swallow the forest whole. It is the silence that follows a disaster, a stillness so heavy it presses against my chest like a physical weight. Selene walks beside me. Her steps are light, barely disturbing the ash-covered earth, yet her presence radiates a gravity that bends the air around us. She moves with a deliberate, painful purpose. She isn't just walking through the world, she is bearing it. She is a force of nature, but her power doesn't come from the fear she inspires. It comes from the fact that she has survived. We stand at the edge of the ruins, and the sight of it hits me like a physical blow. The Silver Moon Stronghold, once a monument to pride and ancestral strength, is now a graveyard of blackened wood and shattered stone. The broken skeletons of buildings reach toward the sky like the fingers of a drowning man. Walls that stood for centuries are cracked open. Columns that once held up the roof of a kingdom lie scattered like bone dust. The wind moans through the debris, a low, haunting sound that mimics the voices of the ghosts who must still linger here. I sweep my gaze over the devastation and feel a sadness that is ancient and cold. This place was alive once. It was a vessel for laughter, for the fierce love of a pack, for warriors who knew exactly why they were willing to die. Now, it is a memory being eaten by the moss. Selene moves through the rubble with a reverence that shakes me. It isn't the walk of a queen inspecting her property. It is the walk of a woman visiting a tomb. She reaches out, her fingers grazing a section of wall worn smooth by generations of hands. Her touch is delicate, hauntingly soft, as if she is afraid that a sudden movement might shatter the memories still clinging to the stone. I follow her, my boots muffled by the thick, grey dust. I have spent my entire life as a bringer of ruin. I have left trails of ash behind me from one end of the continent to the other, and I never looked back. Destruction was my trade. But here, standing in the heart of her loss, I realize I never truly understood what nothing meant. I never saw the history behind the targets. I never considered the life that existed before the fire. She stops before a broken altar, where moss has begun to claim the cracked stone. A faint, ghostly wisp of smoke still curls from a fire pit at its center, the last dying breath of a civilization. She closes her eyes and rests her hand on the cold surface, and for a moment, I feel the shift. She isn't just touching stone, she is plugging into the ley lines of her people. "I remember when I was younger," she whispers. The words are barely audible, yet they carry the resonance of 1,000 voices. I remember how alive this place felt. The laughter, the stories, the way the pack would gather here under the moon. We were strong, Derek. We were whole. I am speechless. I have never known what it is to belong to something worth protecting. I've killed for Viktor's power, for my own survival, for the hollow thrill of the hunt. But I have never had a legacy. I have never had a family that made a place feel alive. Selene turns to me, her eyes twin pools of silver and grief. The depth in her gaze makes my own chest ache with an unfamiliar sympathy. "This is why we fight," she says softly. "It's not for power. It's not for control. It's for them." Her voice cracks, a tiny fracture in her iron composure, and in that moment, the full scale of her burden is revealed. She isn't fighting to rebuild a castle. She is fighting to protect the honor of the dead and the hope of the unborn. The spirit of her people isn't in the stones, it is burning in her heart, a flame far more brilliant and terrifying than anything Viktor ever tried to teach me. The anger I've carried, the confusion and the programmed hatred, it all dissolves into the ash at our feet. In its place grows something quiet, immovable, and absolute: respect. I see her now, not as a target, not as an obstacle, but as the last of something beautiful in a world that specializes in the ugly. I thought my mission was to destroy a threat. I realize now that my life was leading me here so I could finally see the truth. I take a step forward, closing the distance between us, letting the weight of the moment settle into my marrow. I don't know what the coming war looks like. I don't know if I can ever truly wash the blood from my hands, but I know this: I am done being a weapon for the shadows. I will stand by her side, not because of a contract, and not because I have nowhere else to go. I will stand with her because I want to protect the light she carries. I will face Viktor's armies. I will face the end of the world, and I will do it as her shield. Our eyes meet again, and the judgment is gone. The caution that used to define our every interaction has been replaced by a silent, profound understanding. In that gaze, I feel a sensation I have never known in all my years of wandering. I feel the warmth of belonging. I feel the weight of purpose. "I didn't think you'd understand," she says, her voice regaining its steady, melodic strength. "But I'm glad you're with me. I don't need answers anymore. I don't need to know how the story ends. For the first time in my life, I don't need to look over my shoulder to see who is pulling my strings. I am with her. I am a guardian of the silver moon. And in the ruins of the old world, I have finally found my home." The day drags on with an unnatural stillness. It is the silence of the gallows, the kind of quiet that precedes a landslide. The winds that once whispered secrets through the pines have died, leaving the ruins in a hollow vacuum that stretches toward the horizon. Even the birds have fled, their songs extinguished by the encroaching shadow. I can feel the atmospheric pressure in my bones. The air has thickened, turning into a fog of pure tension that lodges in the lungs. I stand beside Selene, my fingers coiled around the hilt of my blade. I have walked into the mouth of 100 battles, but none of them felt like this. Before, I was a weapon fighting for a master's coin. Now, I am a man fighting for the right to exist. Viktor's army is coming. The realization is a cold stone in my stomach. His trusted generals, men I once called brothers in arms, are marching toward this sacred ground. I spent a decade running from the shadow Viktor cast over my life, trying to outpace the darkness he carved into my spirit. But here, standing among the ghosts of a fallen pack, I realized the truth. You cannot run from a shadow. You can only turn and face the light. Selene is a statue of silver and resolve. She doesn't speak, but she doesn't have to. The air around her hums with a quiet, lethal determination. She isn't just a leader anymore. She is the physical embodiment of every memory we walked through earlier. She is the living heartbeat of everything that was lost and everything that is worth dying to reclaim. "Are you ready?" she asks. Her voice is the only steady thing in a world that is beginning to tremble. I don't answer at first. How do you prepare for the end of one life and the birth of another? How do you brace yourself for an army that comes to harvest your soul? I think of the broken altar. I think of the moss-covered stones and the laughter that used to ring through these halls. Selene's war isn't about bloodlust or territory. It's about the resurrection of a legacy. It's about honoring the dead by refusing to let their history be buried by the boots of a tyrant. "I'm ready," I say. The words are low, but they are forged in iron. I have finally made my choice. We turn as one to face the horizon. The first signs of the invasion appear like a stain on the edge of the world, dark, looming shapes that ripple across the distant plains. It is a tide of obsidian, moving with the rhythmic, mechanical precision of an empire. There are no shouts, no rallying cries, only the grim, measured thud of 10,000 boots, a heartbeat of impending destruction. The banners of the Blackthorn army unfurl against the grey sky. I see the generals leading the charge, riding in formations I helped design. But it is Viktor who occupies the back of my mind, a ghost that refuses to be exorcised. Even in his absence, I can feel his cold, calculating gaze, waiting for me to falter, waiting for the assassin to return to the leash. He is waiting in vain. "Derek." Selene's voice is a whisper that cuts through the rising din. I look at her and find a fire in her eyes that could melt winter. "You know what's at stake. This isn't a skirmish for survival. This is the moment we've been waiting for. This is where the world breaks, or where it begins again." The words stir something ancient in me, something fierce. I realize she isn't asking me to fight for a pack. She is asking me to fight for the very concept of home. For the first time, the weight of the sword in my hand feels right. It is no longer a tool of murder. It is a pillar of protection. The sound of hooves now shakes the earth, a low-frequency roar that vibrates through the soles of my boots. The army is closer now, a line of steel that stretches farther than the eye can follow. The sky is a bruised purple, the storm on the horizon pressing in like a wall of granite. Every era of my life, the boy, the killer, the fugitive, all of them converge here, at the edge of this ruin. Selene stands tall, her silhouette a jagged, beautiful defiance against the waning light. Her hand rests on her hilt, her expression an impossible blend of peace and war. She is ready to reclaim her kingdom. She is ready to fight for the ghosts. "We stand together," she says, her voice carrying across the stillness, amplified by the power of the land itself. "For the pack, for the future." I step into line beside her, my weapon an extension of my own renewed spirit. I will be her shield. I will be the wall that the Blackthorn army breaks against, no matter the cost, no matter the blood. The first wave of soldiers crests the final ridge. The space between us narrows until I can see the breath of their horses. The air crackles with a sudden, violent energy, and I feel the earth beneath me rise to meet the challenge. The pack is ready. Selene is ready. And for the first time in my life, I am not afraid to die. A chilling cry erupts from the enemy camp, the sound of battle horns echoing like the scream of a dying world. The final confrontation has arrived. This isn't just a battle for a stronghold. This is a war for the soul of everything that was ever lost. And we will not fall. Not today. Not ever. A tremendous amount of heart, time, and work went into bringing this vision to life. If this story moved you, I would be honored to have you like and subscribe to join our pack. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Even a single word like legacy or home lets me know you are here for the journey. Thank you for standing with me. It truly means everything. A special thanks to our channel members, and especially to those who support the craft with a super thanks. You are the fire that keeps this hearth burning.